Yo, KP Scott here. What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today is the part I've been dreading the most, is the wiring, but it has to happen. This is the last step before we get some aftermarket audio going in. I had a yellow top battery in my previous build that I just took back from my old car. I didn't want to buy another one, and I have one in the back that's the same age, so they're within maybe a couple months of each other, so that's good. I didn't want to get another battery. These are almost 300 bucks. But I got this in the car not too long ago. Also ran some 0 gauge OFC wiring through the firewall into the car, into the back of the trunk there. So we're set and good to go here. But here's the mission for today. I am off today. It's not often that I am, but we're gonna take advantage of it. We're inside the car today. I'm not gonna document this, but I am gonna tell you what's going on. So here's the factory amplifier that's in the NX. It's behind the luggage in the rear side of the car, the right side of the car. And this is the factory harness. So it comes from underneath here, you pull it out, and then you have a slew of pins. These are 30 pins. Some of them are empty, but most of them go to speakers, ground, muting, whatever, sensing, whatever Lexus has going on. And then here we go with this. And this is the amplifier wiring guide you get with Crutchfield. Now, we had to figure out something. There's a discrepancy with this. Now, all of this is correct, but it's backwards. So pin 1 is actually pin 30, and so on and so forth. So the issue with this was it was confusing me because the pins and the colors weren't matching up. And then I finally realized that this and this need to completely flip. So constant volts actually here, pin 2 is actually 29, 28 is 3, blah, blah, blah. So we figured that out. So today I'm going to be splicing into this, not cutting, splicing. And the reason is because if I ever decide to get rid of this car, which I will in some sort of future, I want to be able to just take my wires out, plug this back in, and act like nothing ever happened. Of course, you can cut these and put them back, but it's so much easier just to splice. And then if I don't like them, I can just take them out and stick it back into the amplifier. So I don't really want to cut anything, especially not in a Lexus. Things may trip signals, wires, whatever. I don't want to do anything crazy. So I'm going to splice into this, and here's how you do it. You take a razor blade, something sharp, and you want to cut off the insulation, cut off a little jacket here. You don't want to cut into the wires, but you want to cut the insulation around it, and then expose the wire, and then take your wire and stick it into the existing wire, twist them together, and then you can tape them with electrical tape, and then you're good to go. So instead of cutting things off, we splice or tap into. It's a lot longer, but it's a safer connection than cutting things off and maybe having trouble putting this on in the future. Plus, cutting them off would be a bad idea because I would have to tie these ends back together, because this has to go back into the amplifier. This is amplified signal coming from the amplifier to my door speakers right now. And so we don't want to cut this off necessarily and then run it to our aftermarket equipment. We want to keep it together just in case something fails or something trips a warning with the system, because there's a lot of electronics going on in this car. So that's the goal so far. Now coming to the back of the trunk here, so we've done a lot of different things. So this is that the OFC wiring coming from the front battery here. This is going to go from front battery to the secondary battery, and then this wire here is ground going to that battery as well. So I should technically have power right now to all this. Of course, is not hooked up, but I should have power to what will be my amp rack up here. So we'll test that hopefully, but I want to get that done first so I can put all these panels on after I check my power. And so we should be good to go. Battery is actually inside the house right now. I don't need it out here, but we should technically have power to everything, just no sound. And so we will work on the sound part first, test all of that together, and then we'll put the panels on. I also ordered some more Dynamat because I decided if I'm gonna already have the panels off, I might as well take the time to Dynamat this stuff, because this sub's gonna have it rattling. I went ahead last night and took off this panel again and added more Dynamat, because even this small little factory sub was still rattling this whole panel, and I just could not stand it. It just takes away from the music, and it's not very good on bass anyway. And then you add vibration, now you really just hear vibration and no bass at all. So I cleaned that up because I'm gonna have to when I put the factory or the aftermarket sub back in here. These panels will probably rattle to death too, so I'm gonna slap those with some Dynamat as well, get down here, do Dynamat, and then put all the stuff down. So should be good to go. So today we're gonna get that wiring done as much as possible. I have my wiring diagram, I'm good to go. We'll put the battery back in here, make sure that everything hooks up the way that I think it will. And if it does, we will be done with the build. All right guys, I wanna show you this real quick. So I found it, if you're splicing in the wires, I found it super easy to do this. So if you have some wire strippers, kind of like this here, This makes it super easy. I can't do this with one hand, but what you want to do is take the wire you want to splice and put it into the wire stripper, and then slowly pull apart. Don't do it too fast. You don't want to pull the wiring, and then it'll open the wire to look a lot like this. And then you can use your razor blade to kind of shave off the top, kind of like that, kind of shave off the top, and then you get rid of the insulation. It doesn't cut the wire, so you get a really good amount of strip off of there, or good insulation off of there, and then you can easily tap into that. So it's so much easier this way than trying to stick the little edge of a razor blade in there and trying to peel off. It's more simpler to use your wire cutters and have it split off naturally, and then you can use the razor blade to kind of shave off some of the excess until you get to the amount you want. So super easy that way. All right guys, so we have the wires that I need to be spliced, and we're getting the wire that's gonna go from here to our aftermarket amplification. So this is going to the DM608, the DSP. And so what we're doing now is I have some leftover labels from my home theater setup. It's always nice to label things. In this case, it's gonna be super important to label things. So what I am doing, I made really long wire just because it's better to have more and then cut it off. So I'm putting these labels on so I know which ones they go to. So RR is the rear right speaker. We have plenty of labels in here. If you're using wire like this, I hate when manufacturers do this, but if you have wires that don't have color coding on them, meaning one will be a solid color and one will be like white and black or some kind of indentation of a difference. If you don't have a wire like this, it's always nice to use the writing as a reference. So for me, I always do this with wire. Whatever has the writing on the side is the negative for me. Just so when I'm hooking them up together, I know where they're going. When I hook it up to the amp, I know which one is positive, which one is negative. So if you're ever using wiring that doesn't have any kind of indentation between positive and negative, use the writing that's usually on every speaker wire as one or the other, positive or negative, whatever you want to do, but make it one or the other. In my case, anytime you see writing on the side, it is negative, so that you know where to hook it up to when you plug it onto your amps. So we're moving right along, gonna label all these, and then we should be good to go. All right, wiring is done for the most part. I electrical taped everything. You don't want any of this stuff touching each other, and it also adds a little bit of integrity to it. So if for some reason it does kind of move or bend, it's pretty tight and in place. Now the only hiccup that I'm probably going to run into so far, there's only 5 speakers hooked up. So front left, front right, rear left, rear right, and the subwoofer. Now there are 3 dash speakers in my car. There's 3 dash speakers up there, and those are weird because they are a mid-range speaker, or they're coaxial design, so it has a mid-range and then it has a tweeter built into it, so it's a coaxial speaker. And the setup that I'm running is three-way, so door speaker, a tweeter, and a mid-range, all separate components. So the factory amplifier, I believe, has the crossover. It's the built-in crossover here, if I'm not mistaken. And so I don't know that I have enough channels to run separate front left, front right, and center for the dash. I don't have enough as far as my DSP goes that I'm using. I may have to either purchase a new one or figure out a way around it. So right now, all I've done is hook up the door speakers and the sub, and then I'll probably just let the amplifier power the coaxial speakers in the dash. I might replace the speakers in the dash with some aftermarket, but let this factory amp do the work, because I think it's crossover in the factory amplifier and I don't have a way around it. So we'll have to see once I get everything set up what I want to do. Now, you guys can see that I went and tidied up the wire that's going from the factory amp that I spliced into to my DM608 processor that's going to sit just behind the headrest of the left side passenger seat. So we are going to have this ran all the way around. I went ahead and tidied it up so that it can stay in place. I can wrap it around what I want to. It's not frailing like this. It kind of stays steady and sturdy. So that's perfect. And then of course I made a very long cable because it's always easier to cut than it is to add on. And so that's done with too. All my labels are down here. So front left, front right, rear left, and then the sub, all labeled. So when it comes to hooking them up to the processor back there, they're easy and set up. So what I'm going to do now is I'm gonna run these underneath the seat and then bring them up, and then that should be perfect. It'll be out of the way. Nobody will know that they're there for the most part. All right, so here's how it's gonna look. So we're gonna put this panel back on, make sure that it can fasten without any issue. I'll plug this in a second. Don't wanna give any of this power yet because these aren't capped off. And so I don't want them to be touching or be active at all in any sort of way. So we don't have that plugged in yet, but we're gonna leave the excess cable alone. Having extra is always good. So we're just gonna tuck that away. It'll be covered by that panel that'll go over there, so you'll never see it, ever. And then here, this is where the DM608 will sit, right behind the headrest. So I have plenty of wire for that. So it'll go in this area here. It'll be kind of concealed by the box, and then I'll kind of wrap it with the rest of the wire from the amp rack, so it'll be pretty hidden as well. So that's good to go. So I just need to get some electrical tape and cap these off because we're not going to be able to play the system yet. I have not ran wire from the aftermarket amplifiers that'll sit here to all the door speakers. I have not done that, so we're gonna have to use the factory system just one more time, which is why I spliced into it instead of cut it, so I can still use the factory system. So that's good to go. So we're gonna cap this off right now, or maybe I'll just plug it into the DM and leave it like that. So then later on I can run my speaker wire to all my speakers, and we'll figure out the dash speakers later. So it's coming along, we're towards the finish line. I am super excited. What I wanna do by the end of this video, hopefully I'm running out of time because I got things that I need to do today. I wanna try to get the panels in and get the battery in and make sure that I have a good ground and a good power coming to the battery, and then cut off this excess wire because I may need to use it for an extra ground for another amplifier. So I'll see how that goes, but I want to try to get the car back together so I can see how things are going to look, and I want to get the amp rack back so I can see how the wires are going to be hidden. It's just a lot of work, but we're rounding it up, and man, I'm so excited to do this. So we should be ending here pretty soon. Man, I just can't decide if I want to drill a hole here. The battery sits here and it's sitting on this platform that goes here, so it's about that high. And man, just drilling it right there would be perfect. But do I want to put a hole in my car? I don't really want to. I'm sure I could patch it up when I'm done with it. I just don't want any holes in the car whatsoever. But it's not possible to necessarily route it through here because this is what it looks like on the other side. You still have this panel here. I mean, I can maybe drill a hole in the panel, or maybe there's some holes in this panel already I can feed it through. I really don't want to drill anything. I'm going to put this panel that goes on this side in the car real quick and see what it looks like, and then I'll know what I want to do with these two wires coming from the front of the car to the back. I'll see what I want to do, and then we'll wrap the video up. All right, so I think what I want to do, I'm more comfortable with drilling a hole here in these really clean. It's recessed. You put a little tool in there so it'll be covered. I'm thinking about drilling a hole through there, bringing it up. And remember, there's a mat that sits over top of this, so it's carpet. There's a little lid that folds up and down on this, so I'll probably have to drill a hole there and maybe tuck it through here and around. We'll have to see. But that's going to do it for this video. I am out of time for today on this. I got somewhere I need to be. But we are so close to being done. I can now put these panels back. I'm going to put this one that goes over here back, and then put my amp rack in. That'll allow me to wire it up and see if the power's on. We're going to leave this open because on Friday I should have my sound deadening in. We're gonna try to take care of some of this stuff in here. I'm not so much worried about these panels. I did put some Dynamat in these panels, but with the weight of the sub on top of this, it's not going to move very much at all. But we'll see what happens. But I'm gonna put some Dynamat all through this. And if I need to, I'll pop that back off and put some down there. We'll see how the rattling sounds whenever I get everything hooked up. But that's gonna be it for Project Lexus for today. We are so close to being done. We should be done by the next video, hopefully. So we'll see you guys later.